You referred to the Salado a few times, and I know recent literature has been talking about, well, not even recent, Patricia Crown put out the book about the Salado polychromes might in fact be the function of a religion, that it's found all over the Southwest, but the clay of origin seemed to be local. Do you see that as part of the Aztlan at all?
Salado?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I really do see it as part of Aztlan. Salado is a funny place. It's very northernized. I mean, the pottery is outgrowth of pottery, which was originally much further north, a White Mountain groups of pottery. The houses are very Pueblo-like. I don't know. You know what I think, and this is really heresy, so you can all shrink back and turn your backs on me. I think that by 1300, you basically had two cultures in the Southwest. One is what I simply would call generalized Pueblo. In the West, I'd call it Western Pueblo, and that includes groups that like the Salado, like the Mogollon, and like the Sinagua, for that matter, although earlier they clearly had some Hohokam influence. These people are people who are, for the most part, buried by inhumation, who utilized a series of very fine polychrome potteries, who lived in stone and mud masonry houses for the most part. And then that was one group. Off to the south was another group, the Casas Grandes people, who were mainly lived in mainly adobe houses, and who were much more Mexicanized. But I think the whole upper Southwest had become very Puebloized. I wish the term Mogollon had not been invented, really, in a way. I think it would have been better to consider them a kind of Pueblo Indian, a kind of Anasazi, although maybe that's stretching the term a little bit. Okay. Anybody want to throw something at me?
What are the archaeological evidences of child sacrifice or human sacrifice when there wasn't any written language?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite. What are the archaeological evidences?
Evidences of, you talked about child sacrifice and human sacrifice. What are the evidences in archaeology that demonstrate that?
There's no historical evidence at all for it in the upper Southwest. There's no archaeological evidence in terms of little tiny skeletons and the like. You find it in the stories. The Kachinas taking away children when they came, and you find a dim representation of it. Thank you. In the ideas of the reaction of Kachinas to children, the Spaniards didn't find it at all, and believe me, they would have found it. They were very, very cognizant of any kind of human sacrifice. In Casas Grandes, you've got skeletal remains all over the place. Okay.
You made mention of the importance of turkeys.
Yeah.
The last time I was in the ruin in Aztec, New Mexico, there was one room that was devoted to turkeys.
Yeah.
And they said there that they didn't eat them. They weren't really sure what they were doing with them. Is that connected?
You mean in archaeological period? Yeah, I think that is generally said. I think they did eat turkeys to some degree, but they may have been raised more for their feathers than for food. But I think they were a pretty good food source, and toward the end especially, the pueblos seem to be running out of good sources of protein. I can't think they didn't eat them at all. But you're right, the ritual use of feathers was very important.
I've often wondered, and I may be way off, but is it possible when you say there were sacrifices at Casas Grandes, but as you go north into the Hopi, the Zuni, there is no more? Do you suppose this is branches off people escaping from a religion they didn't care for to get away from sacrificing?
Well, it's certainly a possibility. But I really do think there was originally sacrifices. Sacrifice of people is such a widespread Mesoamerican trait. Oddly enough, it does not appear all that much in the West, and you may have had influences from the West, from Aztlan coming in there, but I think there was probably some. Yeah.
A curious question, because of my background. What evidence, now this is pretty late, but still, what evidence and things have you come across within your writings and that of others of influences from elsewhere, from the Pacific and from Europe, Mediterranean regions, into these regions in Mesoamerica and then spreading out here, if any?
Yeah, what influences from other parts of the world, the Pacific, perhaps Europe, so forth? Well, there are lots of different opinions about that. My own opinion is that there really wasn't much in this period, in this area. There's a book that was published about 40 years ago, which I was the chief editor, called Man Across the Sea, which kind of was a state-of-the-art argument for trans-Pacific and transatlantic contacts as of that date, the 1970s. Some people see archaeologists named George Carter, for example, saw the spread of chickens all through that region, probably from Southeast Asia originally, but going way up into the Pueblo world in pre-Hispanic times. I personally don't see it. I think the domestic chicken reached the Southwest in the 16th century, but not before.
Okay,
yes.
Well, then let's thank anybody else? Oh, okay. Thanks. Thank you. Well, we're certainly glad that you're still around to be able to talk to us tonight. And I think what he also points out is that I've heard a recent interesting term recently, talking at V-Bar-V days, all the archaeologists that we had walking around, that the American Southwest archaeologists, they're going to change their name. They're not going to be called archaeologists anymore. They're going to be called arguologists.
Arguologists.
But I think his book is actually helping to bring a lot of these thoughts together. So again, thank you very much, Dr.
Sure.
Riley. And good night, everyone.